Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Ollie Show, where we will have special guests, hot topics, and unexpected surprises. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Dr. Ollie Show. Today, I'd like to invite you to open your heart and clear your mind as we dive into our topic. We're going to be having a discussion about abortion. So many people have mixed opinions about it, and as you recently have found out, our governor here in Texas has decided that if you are over a certain time frame, as far as I believe it's about 6 weeks, then you are pretty much, you don't have a choice. You're pretty much locked into the situation. But I have some guests here that feels like as if that this right here could be maybe wrong in a sense. So I want to open up the topic and just, welcome everyone here. And so we have here, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Martha Chupp.
All right. And then right here, Miss Maggie.
Maggie Kelly.
All right.
Cody Bookout.
All right. So all of these guys here and gals are here to just state their opinions. And so I wanted to talk to you guys and just really just dive in and ask you, when it comes down to abortion, we live in such a mixed world, and what is right now, it may not be right later, and what once was one way is now, a totally different way. So I just want to know, when you hear that word, what really comes to mind?
Abortion?
Yeah.
Murder.
Okay.
Women's rights being taken away, in a way, because right now we have men controlling the whole situation. I'm very frustrated about women not having their own say about their body and their situation.
Mm-hmm. So you feel like as if that it's just you're just taking a life.
Yes.
And
yes, unless there are certain situations,
mm-hmm.
Rape, for instance, some tragic situations, then it needs to be, thought about more. I feel like in those cases it would be all right, extenuating circumstances.
Okay.
It's up to a woman
to make that decision.
To make decision for herself.
Cody, what do you think about that?
I believe that, one, I have sisters of my own.
Okay.
And to think that, hypothetically, if something ever happened to them, I would want them to have a choice. I'd want them to be able to choose what they could do with their body. I come from a very conservative family,
mm-hmm.
and the belief systems there just don't resonate with me because, I have my best friend. I have so many women in my life that I believe deserve their option to choose if they want to do what they want to do with their body.
Okay. And Maggie?
I'm a salon owner in Addison, Texas, and being in a North Dallas location, I hear a lot of women's opinions. I'm kind of in the cross zone between a very Republican Collin County. I have a lot of clients from there, mm-hmm. and then the very liberal Dallas clientele. And they kind of merge together in a very interesting way in the North Dallas area. And what I hear a lot of concerns from both sides that sound very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And the resounding echo I hear in my salon is my body, my choice.
Mm-hmm.
And that everyone tends to agree about extenuating circumstances such as rape and incest and things like that. But the truth of it is that the law that's taking place in Texas right now restricts access across the board.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not any provisions for these extreme circumstances. Mm-hmm. And we see cases incidences all across the world, and that we can look and see where laws this restrictive have really negative impacts. There was a case in Poland just in the last couple of weeks that I'm literally shaking. This is such a passionate topic for me. That there's a woman who passed away in Poland that because of the way the laws were worded over there, none of the doctors felt protected enough by the law. Mm-hmm. They didn't feel that they could perform the life-saving abortion. And it was understood that, like, right now, or at the moment, the baby was alive, and then it would inevitably pass away. And when it did pass away, it would go septic, and then it would be a danger to the woman's life. But in the current state, it was not. And so it got delayed and delayed and delayed until it would be life-threatening. And then this woman actually ended up dying.
Oh, wow.
And so people are protesting in the streets over this. Mm-hmm. And when you have laws this restrictive, it scares doctors into not performing the life-saving measures needed sometimes. And it's not okay.
Okay.
Sorry. That's
no, it's fine. I mean, it is really touchy. Do you agree with that, with what she's saying? Or?
Yeah, I do. Because there are times that I've known women that have had issues mm-hmm. with the doctors doing what they needed to do for their health.
So tell me this, mm-hmm. How do you guys feel about when it comes down to, let's just say, for example, we got a couple and maybe the female, she wants to get the abortion, it's her body, but then also the guy, he does not want that to take place, he wants her to have the child.
If there's no life-threatening situation there, I don't see why she couldn't have the child and let him have it.
So just have it and then give it over to him?
Yeah.
You're asking someone to go through an extreme medical procedure that, like, I mean, when you have a baby, all women know this, it's your entire body goes through so many changes. I mean, you just start with the hormones and like losing your hair and such, but much less if you go all the way through, like if you have to have a C-section and they literally cut through your abs and take your organs out and throw them back in, not necessarily in the same way they came out. I mean, you're asking someone to go through this incredibly invasive procedure when they don't want to have a child. And then oftentimes, like you say, just, pass it on to the father. We live in a society where statistics show by and by single mothers are raising these kids, and fathers aren't. They're mostly paying child support, and they're financial contributors to the child's mm-hmm. upbringing. And so you have to look at the culture we live in and ask yourself if that addresses all of the questions, because it doesn't. Mm-hmm. Just saying, well, have the baby and then just let him raise it if he wants it. Well, what about saying, how about have a child with someone who wants to have a child with you?
But sometimes it doesn't always happen like that. That's what I'm saying. I mean, people, call it what you want to call it. It could be accident or whatever, but I'm just saying, they get caught up in the moment, and then next thing you know, she's pregnant or whatever. I mean, how would you feel about that, Cody?
I mean, I feel like we're not just in general, as, Maggie was just saying, like, we need more education. If we're not educating what you're saying, things will happen. If kids or adults are educated on this, then let's say you are educated about it. I'm going to put mm-hmm. you're a man and you're in that situation, because I know men that have dealt with this right here in certain situations. And let's say you're dating a female, and then all of a sudden you find out that she's pregnant for whatever reason. And she tells you that it's your child, and she says, I'm going to get an abortion. Are you supportive of that, or are you against that? I would be supportive of it, because I would really have to look at what's my financial situation, where am I at in my life, and I think mm-hmm. that if she wanted to do that, I'm going to be 110% in support of her, mm-hmm. because that is her body, that is her right. Mm-hmm. It's not my place to dictate what she wants to do with her body.
And this is the message that we're really trying to get out as far as like to the government now, because of the fact that with the way that the law is set now, it doesn't make a difference if it's her body or if it's not. They're looking at time frame. If you're at 6 weeks with Texas government, then okay, you're going to do what we say do, and that is they ban laws for that right there. So that's why we're here today, to be able to have a discussion about it. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a commercial break. I thank all of you for just sharing your opinions right now, and we'll be back right after this. Welcome back. So we've been having a discussion about abortion, whether it's right, whether it's wrong. Should it be legalized to be able to do this, or should they ban it altogether? The state of Texas has already banned it, as I stated before. We went to commercial break. And I'm thanking all of our guests just for being here, and just really all of them have been sharing valuable information. And just, I know, Maggie, you said you got on a soapbox earlier.
I'm so passionate about this. I've listened to literally hundreds of women talk about this in the shop.
So let's just jump right back in. And since you said that you feel like as if that it should be up to the woman totally, when do you feel like as if that it is a right time to do an abortion?
I mean,
is it a certain time frame?
I'm not a medical expert, obviously.
Okay.
But I think probably, ideally before the second trimester.
Okay.
There are instances, though, where in the second trimester it is necessary. I think it's, life-threatening instances.
So if they're past the second trimester, you're saying they should have the child?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Unless it's the baby's going to die and you're going to go septic and you end up with like the case in Poland we were talking about. But I want to talk a little bit about like that 6-week mark. So at 6 weeks, you're lucky if you even know you're pregnant, first and foremost. And the doctor generally will turn you away and ask you to come back when it's a little larger so that they can remove the entire thing. It's a little small for them to catch it all under that understanding.
Yeah.
And so what you've done is you've effectively completely banned abortion all the way across the board with no provisions for rape or incest or risk to the woman's life. This is so damaging. And but what you've done also in this is you've created almost a class war because it becomes about access. Who has access and who doesn't have access to abortion? Because if you have generational wealth, you can afford to hop a plane and go to a neighboring state and have your abortion. What this does is it disproportionately affects people of color in the lower socioeconomic class because now you have to think about, well, if they can't afford that, why can't they afford this, right? Yeah. It's going to be plane tickets are expensive. You have to pay attention to taking time off of work. And, if you have to drive, how far that is. There's, all of these things that disproportionately affect the people who can't have abortions versus those who have access. So who is this law even affecting? Yeah.
So when do you feel like if that is appropriate?
I don't think you should have an abortion unless it's rape or incest.
So I mean, but there's a certain so you're saying even if it's 6 weeks, 12 weeks, you're saying it doesn't make a difference if it's not due to a certain condition. You think they should have the child? That's what you're okay.
Yeah, if it's not due to a certain condition after the 6 weeks is over with, they should have it.
They should have. So you're pretty much almost on the government side with that.
I'm on God's side.
Okay. But I'm thinking about as far as, because like we said, appropriate wise, and now we're looking at when it's inappropriate, and you're just saying that those are your answers. I mean, if it's inappropriate, you're looking at that unless it's got to do with those two things, as far as incest or as far as just pretty much the same thing that you're calling. Okay.
Yes, because if you're going to commit the act, you know what the price is going to be. It's going to be pregnancy or possibility of pregnancy. So if you're not taking birth control and you're not taking some kind of measure to keep yourself from getting pregnant, and you end up pregnant.
Well, but watch this. But okay, and you know what, and Cody, maybe you can help me out with this right here. I think you mentioned something just a little bit earlier. Just about abortion and then just bringing you're talking about life into the world, and you said if she was, totally against it, and it could be for a number of different reasons, you would support her 100%. Okay, so when finances come into the picture, and what if that's that real reason of why they just say, hey, we're together, and we did this right here, but we know financially we won't be able to support it. We won't be able, we'll have to depend totally on the government for everything, and people, they just don't want to do that. So this is, their way out. You don't think that's a good enough reason? Like if they're on a minimum wage job, literally making $8, $9 an hour.
That's what most people do, honey, is they raise kids on a minimum wage job.
But I'm saying, what if these people don't want to do it? As far as on that budget,
then they can give them up for adoption.
So you think so still have the child.
Still have the child.
Give them up for adoption.
Yes,
and
you knew what you were going to get into when you got together and you did your little thing. So whatever, unless there's rape or incest or something that's going to hurt her.
Yeah.
I don't think you should have an abortion.
Okay. So, do you think that religion affects anything with this right here? I hadn't asked any of you guys what religion you are. None of that right there. We have people from all over, as far as this country, that, are multiple different religions. Doesn't matter. I'm just wondering, do you think that has a part to play in with it?
I will say, I came from a very Southern Baptist background.
Okay.
Very conservative, and a lot of it had to do with religion. And that, to me, I understand the aspects.
So you're saying if there wasn't a certain religion, then after that it'd be okay to give it up?
I think in any situation, I think it should be the woman's choice to be able to make her own decision.
Okay.
May I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Maggie. Come on.
So I would like to touch on the topic of education, right? So you said if they committed the act, they knew what they were doing, therefore they should have the consequences, right?
Yeah.
Essentially. But what about the funding of abstinence-only programs? Can you really say that someone is fully educated in the decisions they're making when they're making decisions, especially high schoolers and such, based on hormones and how they feel inside? And you have abstinence-only programs, and they're not really discussing birth control options. And what they, by and by, tend to say is, well, here's some resource material from Planned Parenthood. And then you go to Planned Parenthood, and if you don't have insurance, the birth control is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
What you find is a non-hormonal implant that lasts 3 to 5 years is $1,100 without insurance. And so, and there's this huge emphasis on women preventing the pregnancy. Women don't get pregnant. You opened your legs. These are your consequences. Where is the responsibility of the man to not get the woman pregnant?
Well, they just put it all on the woman, really.
Right.
That's the thing.
But there's condoms, there's things men can do too to keep her from getting pregnant. So if the two do it together and they don't take the proper precautions, he doesn't and she doesn't.
Yeah, but they say that condom stuff don't give you the full effect.
So,
Get a vasectomy if you don't want kids.
But what about teenagers? 215 hormone
educational purposes, if we're not teaching the kids about these options and we're just saying, oh, here's this. I will say when I was a teenager, I didn't look at it.
You just got it in.
I wasn't educated.
You stuffed it in your backpack with the rest of the papers the teacher gave you.
And I believe that that's something that could be changed. If we're educating more in our schools, I think that could make a lot of a difference. But it's also, as she said, economically, financially, birth control and other things, if you're not able to get those resources, then, it's not always the woman's fault. Mm-hmm. Your brain is still developing, when you're speaking from a perspective of them being teenagers,
mm-hmm.
Teenage pregnancies, their brains are still developing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
your decision-making prefrontal cortex doesn't come online until your 30s.
Gotcha. Wow. Okay. So I have so much more that I really want to be able to say. But we've got to go to a commercial break. So we're going to cut just for a moment. We're going to take a commercial break, and I'll come back and I'll pick back up with what's on my mind. So we'll be back right after this. Welcome back. So we've been having a discussion about abortion. Is it right? Is it not right? Should we do this right here? Should the government have the right to be able to pretty much just cancel out a woman's rights of what she desires to do with her body? And everybody's been stating really good opinions on it. So as we conclude the show on today, I'd like to be able to ask you guys, if you could, let's just say, if you could leave anything with our viewers about the topic that we're discussing, what would you like to leave?
Well, with me coming from an Amish background, I just really am against abortion totally.
Okay.
Unless it's incest or rape.
Okay.
But I think we need to have things for women, access to birth control, the day after, the morning after pill, things like that. If women had more access to things like that, then we probably wouldn't be having much of this conversation.
You don't think they can get that?
I think there's a lack of men controlling the world and male-dominated society.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, we don't have access to things like we need.
Okay. All right, Maggie?
Just because I am pro-choice does not mean I am pro-abortion.
Okay.
I think I am not for abortion, honestly. But you have to pay attention to why women have abortions and address those issues if you really want to see the numbers come down.
Yeah.
And access to education and resources for single mothers and lower income and middle families to have access to support the children. There's no maternity care in this country. I guarantee that if I were to get pregnant, that my job would be reserved for me when I come back. There are real issues. And so if you're going to be pro-life, you have to be pro-life and pay attention to the fact that, there's a real need for health care and a structure for these families.
Do you think if a mother, if she already has, let's just say, 5 children, and then she gets pregnant again, and she said, I don't want any more, I can't afford it anymore, do you think that it's right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That she should just go ahead and have an abortion?
If she doesn't want to have any more children, and it's literally taking food from her other children's mouths, then absolutely.
And you're saying she should not have the abortion? That
she should give it up for adoption after she has it because she can't afford it, obviously. She doesn't want it. She's already had the others. She did the act. She got pregnant.
But if she can't afford the baby, what makes you think she can afford the birth when it costs $17,000 on average to have a baby? And that's, we're charging for skin-to-skin contact in a hospital.
Hospital care is $17,000, and it's
to have a baby, right? So, okay. You're also asking someone to not only at the expense of their body, but also at the expense of the livelihood of their family to the tune of $17,000 and whatever, taking time off of work and extra expenses that accrues.
Okay. And so what would be your closing words as far as to leave with our audience on today?
I'm going to have to piggyback on, what my best friend was just saying. One of the things that I believe that, there's things that could be done to change things. And if she wants to do something, yes, she has more of the right to. We can't deny women their right to choose what they want to do with their bodies. Mm-hmm. And if we're doing that, then it's, to me, feels like we're reverting back to a state of almost...
Would you say it's like going back in a sense where when women didn't have the right to vote? Mm-hmm. That's what's okay.
Kind of, yeah. And it's a huge red flag when the people making these laws are personally above them.
Okay, okay, I see what you're saying.
And all men.
Right. These wealthy white men making laws where, I mean, you really think Donald Trump hasn't paid for a couple of abortions,
I mean, like for real.
Well,
I do not approve of abortion, but I will have to agree with you on that.
With all the scandals of the women that he slept with,
countless accusations of rape.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you, you guys have done phenomenal, just stating your opinions, but today we're out of time.
Oh,
and
wow.
so, I feel like we got a message over. I feel like we got a message over well enough to give as far as our viewers and just the nation enough to even just start thinking about when we make these laws and say that we're going to take away a right. Like I said, it's almost similar to going back with women even having the right to be able to vote. And so I just want to thank each and every last one of you just for coming out and being a part of the Dr. Ollie Show on today. And I want to thank our viewers for watching. So until next time, let's continue to talk, let's listen, and never stop loving. Thank you, and God bless.